all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights.
Life, liberty, and the
If liberty means anything at all, it means the right to tell people what they do not want to hear.
Make America great again. Welcome back to the Big Mig Show, and good morning. The weekend is finally here. We're excited. Of course, we've been up from the rise and grind. Started our day with the Crypto Power Hour at 7 a.m. And show's doing really well. We'll talk to you about that in a minute. But of course, what's it about on this show? So liberty means anything at all. It means the right to tell people what they do not want to hear. And you know that is the plan each and every single episode of the Big Mig Show, educating and unifying the country, because we get all walks of life that watch our show. Because everybody knows we'll go after both sides of the aisle. We don't play favorites. We're still talking about Epstein, and there's a number of reasons why we should still be talking about Epstein. But we're also talking about transparency, accountability, and consequences. That's what I voted for. And I don't really care who's in the White House as long as I get that. And I'm still not getting that. So I'm not really too happy about that, but it is what it is. There are a lot of people in this administration that are doing a good job. But there are some I am not thrilled with. George Ballantine, my brother from another mother. How are you, man? What's going on? What's shaking bacon?
I don't know.
How's the weather? Is the weather good there? Because it's pretty warm over here.
No, it's actually supposed to be really cold now the next few days. I'm just trying to digest Zen trying to get me to move to North Carolina where it's cold when I want to get out of the cold state. I don't know.
We've got a great guest today. He's talking about Zen Honeycutt backstage. She's in the green room.
She's laughing right now too. See,
but you can't blame her. Hey, look, But let me say something. North Carolina and South Carolina, they're beautiful. They're beautiful country, beautiful place, nice people. So I can see the appeal of it. But as I get older and as I deal with some of these old injuries, repetitive, combat sports injuries, maybe some of the jumping I did and everything else, you pay the consequences as you get older. And you look for these edges. That's why we've had some great interviews lately on health. If you didn't catch those, you should go back into the feeds. Catch them on podcasts. We're on every podcast platform, and we're really making some big numbers over there. So if you're not subscribed to us, please go out there and do it. And don't forget the thumbs up, comment, and subscribe today. And if you could do the $5 subscription, great, fantastic. I know it's a tough economy, but we appreciate it. So we've gotten a bunch of subscriptions this week. So thank you, everybody out there that did subscribe. Really appreciate it. And of course, Rumble Rand tips are we're always thankful for those. And don't forget, we also have the crypto connected wallet. Rumble has got this amazing relationship with Tether now. They're tied up with Perplexity. And there is some incredible stuff coming forward that I heard about yesterday. I can't talk about it yet, but with Rumble and Perplexity, there's going to be more and more features. The creators are going to be excited about it. The viewers are going to be excited about it. Great stuff. I love all the forward movement that's coming out of Rumble. It's just really serious, much more than you get over on any of the other platforms. So Rumble and Local is the home base for the Big Mig Show. So we're going to, of course, we always like our sponsors. George and I are diversification guys. We love our gold and silver. We love our crypto. Regardless of crypto, I know everybody's in a panic. Great opportunity to buy, in my opinion. Only buy the top coins, the top projects. If you want to know about those, then you got to join us on the Crypto Power Hour, 7 a.m. on Wednesdays, 7 a.m. on Fridays. That is the #1 crypto show on Rumble, confirmed by Gemini and many other platforms now. We're also top 3 in the nation in that show. So, of course, what am I holding up? Silver and gold. The guys at Genesis Gold Group, great invention. This is the Prepper Bar, the 62.2 gram Prepper Bar, perforated and very easily broken down to your choice of 3 different denominations to fit a multitude of needs. And I don't care whether it's asset protection from inflation, economic turmoil, or its very unique utility for barter and trade. You just snap off a small piece to make a payment. You can see right there's 3 denominations. You can use it for diversification, economic turmoil. And of course, makes a perfect gift. Who doesn't like gold and silver at these prices? I don't think anybody would be unhappy. Your grandkids, your children, wives, girlfriends, throwing them some gold and silver. Probably gold they'd like more, but if you're in the budget of silver, you can do that also. They've got them in stock. They come with an assay report. And I'm going to say this, Go look it up. Tons of counterfeit gold and silver coming out of India and China right now. Be very careful if you're buying anything on eBay. I recommend don't do it. Go to the guys at Genesis Gold Group. They're in stock. They're available now. Head over to thebigmigbar.com. That's right, thebigmigbar.com. Got a promo code for you, all caps, Prepper, P-R-E-P-P-R, P-R-E-P-P-R. You don't have to be a prepper to buy these, though. Thebigmigbar.com, or you can call Genesis Gold Group at 888-526-7154, 888-526-7154. Or the easiest way, take a snapshot of that QR code that George made for you. You can go there after the show, but don't go anywhere because we're breaking a story. She's already broke it online, and I believe we're the first to break it on air. Shocking stuff. We all
Break me
believe.
off a piece of that prepper bar. You're taking my joy away, bro. See?
I'm sorry, George. I took away your jingle joy. George loves that jingle. I'm excited about this story. This is a massive story. For anybody out there, we all believe that the elite warriors of the U.S. military in all branches are being taken care of for everything they're doing for the country in a way that exceeds, we at least hope exceeds what average people get across the nation, because without them, we wouldn't have the freedoms we have. We wouldn't have the great country we have. They have a long, history of taking care of us. And I would assume that when it comes to the services they receive, and we know that isn't necessarily true, our veterans are mistreated. We treat illegal immigrants better. So I guess I shouldn't be as shocked as I am, but I am shocked. But I have to say, for a guy that did eat in some of these chow halls and did eat some of the MREs, it doesn't surprise me. There were many times I saw the food there, and I have to say it looked subpar to me. I wasn't sure how they were sourcing it. Well, it turns out that Zen Honeycutt probably had some of the same thoughts because of her history. And she dug in and she's found some horrible, horrendous things that she's going to talk to you today that she's going to be breaking here on air. And again, I think this is the first interview she's done about this topic. I'm not sure. We'll double check that.
What?
But she is the founding executive director of Moms Across America. It's a 501c3. They've been doing incredible work. She's been on our show before. She started as a mother of three after reversing her son's severe food allergies, autism symptoms, and asthma through organic, non-GMO foods. She's a leading voice against toxins in the food supply. That's what we've discussed before, often compared to Rachel Carson. She's driven America's first independent glyphosate testing in water, breast milk, and urine. Campaigns that remove Roundup from Costco, thankfully. Nationwide awareness events on GMOs and pesticides, and the Neighborhood Food Network for local clean food systems. She's an author also. I don't know how she gets us all in with three kids. She's grinding out here. She's working round the clock, 24/7, 365.
She's got a ranch hand, bro. She gets some help.
Author of Unstoppable and director of Communities Rising. She's an international speaker and so much more. She's in North Carolina. She's even trying to get people to move to North Carolina, like George Ballantine. Let's get her in. No reason to leave her backstage. Zen's a friend of ours.
All right. Welcome to the Big Show. Zen Honeycutt. How you doing?
Oh, thank you, George and Lance. It's great to be back with you, gentlemen.
Great
Zen, we appreciate you coming in. Now, I don't know. Is this the first I know you've already had this online. You wrote the article. Yes. You've got it up on Moms Across America, the website. We're going to show those links to the audience. Is this the first time you've been on air to disclose this story?
No, it broke with ABC 7, and it was in 190 cities. And then last night I was on a local podcast. It's called Pimp. Permaculture is my passion. Pimp podcast last night.
Pimp podcast. I have to say that name is a little confusing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a permaculture podcast, and he's a local guy who's been asking me to be on for months, and it just happened to land last night. And
I got you.
We did that. So, but this is a real pleasure to be back with you.
This is the first big podcast that you're on, but we appreciate you coming out here to break the story. It's a big story. It's huge. And I can't say I'm completely shocked. We've heard the military guys, when you're around them, they do complain about some of the food. Of course, the trading MREs has always been kind of a standard system. There are lots of MREs that nobody wants. You're like, oh my God, not the tuna casserole. The point is, there are certain ones that people would trade for, like the barbecue, and ones that include the macaroni and cheese. I remember making those negotiations because some of them were bad, but I never thought about the nutritional side of it. I always kept, protein out around, and I would make my own protein drinks and otherwise. I know some of the chow holes have gotten better, but this is crazy. So we're taking our finest soldiers And it looks like what you've discovered is that we are serving them products that are 100% contaminated with pesticides, 95% loaded with glyphosate. They've got heavy metals, EPA safety limits. They've gone way past, banned veterinary drugs in the meat, forever chemicals like PFOs at 30 times the drinking water standards. I mean, the list just goes on. I'm shocked. I wouldn't think they would serve the men and women of our military such trash. Yeah. Let's talk about first, what made you wonder about the food? What made you dig in? Of course, maybe give people a little bit of your background.
Sure. Yeah. So I've been working on the food supply for 13 years, primarily because my kids were sick. They had allergies, autism symptoms, autoimmune issues. And I started Moms Across America because I wanted GMOs labeled. I connected GMOs, which are genetically modified organisms, and glyphosate and, all of those toxic chemicals to what was going on with my kids. And I started Moms Across America by joining in 4th of July parades, raising awareness, like 37 states. We had 179 groups. After that, we had 600 leaders who created over 1,000 groups. So we have this army of moms that have been raising awareness and have actually been made a huge part of raising the sale of organic from 20 billion to over close to 70 billion today over the past 13 years. Mm-hmm. So we've been working on the food supply for a long time, and I honed in on glyphosate when I realized that 80% of GMOs are engineered to withstand glyphosate. So we were the first ones to initiate glyphosate testing in America. Back in 2014 is when we launched the results for breast milk, tap water, and urine. And since then, we've gone on to test for not just glyphosate, but 240 different pesticides, 180 different veterinary drugs and hormones, heavy metals, minerals. We recently added PFAS and phthalates, and glyphosate, of course. And so we've been doing testing like this on and off, a couple times a year for the past 13 years. But I wanted to test military food back in 2014 after we found glyphosate in breast milk. And I was invited to speak at a food safety conference in China, one of 30 speakers from 15 countries around the world. And I was asked to speak on GMOs because what the Chinese were being told is that American mothers have been feeding their children GMOs for nearly 20 years with no ill health effects. And I went there to tell them that that is not true, because my thinking is if China stops importing so many, GMOs to feed their livestock or their soybean oil, then maybe we can stop growing so many of them here in the United States, right? So I did my talk, told them about our chronic health issues. And after that, a general of the Chinese military came up to me in full uniform and informed me that they do not feed any GMOs to the Chinese military. None at all. And next to him were two of the right hands of Putin, two women who serve Putin regarding food safety. And they said, and we don't allow GMOs in Russia.
And I've got to say, and the frightening part about this is that we're all wondering about our food supply. Some of it's come from not only the researchers like you, but even the news media recently. Kerrygold butter, supposed to be the premier butter in the country, organic, non-GMO, and it turns out they were feeding their cows after they got purchased by a different group.
To be fair, they don't have organic on their label. They just say Kerrygold. Yeah, they don't have organic.
But the pictures didn't the advertising make us believe, and now we find out they were feeding them corn and soybean. They're getting it from cows that are eating both.
What they advertise is that it's grass-fed. So just because animals are grass-fed doesn't mean they're not also grain-fed. So it has to say 100% grass-fed. And also, I would really want 100% grass-fed and organic, because when I called one of the rancher organizations, I asked if something says grass-fed and they're getting hay in the winter, could that hay be sprayed with Roundup? As sometimes they spray it as a drying agent or a weed killer. Yeah. They said yes. So
it's tough. Everybody wonders why they think it's the gluten. They've wrapped it in the gluten, but it's really the glyphosate.
Yes.
It's not the gluten. It's interesting. I've spent a lot of time overseas, a lot of countries, and I spent a lot of time in Italy. And you can eat all the wheat and bread you want over there and pasta, and you never seem to have the same reaction you do to it here. Because of course you eat a big carbohydrate meal here. And George, I discussed this.
Yeah,
it isn't the same.
I have a wait. Are these MREs? Are they made here in the U.S. or are they made out of this country?
That's a good question. I didn't see the label with the country of origin because they were ordered straight from online and sent to the lab. So I will have to check on that, and I will put that in the article. But we ordered them online. There were 24 MREs. We had 16 meals from cafeterias from 6 different military bases. And, of course, the food, the produce and things like that most likely would be grown here in the United States. But the meat, when we found veterinary drugs and hormones in the meat that are one of them is banned in the US, Europe, and Canada. So that implies to us that meat is either imported or processed from China or South America or Africa. And so what we are advocating for is that the American troops get American food, and not just American food, but regenerative, organic American food grown here locally.
Wouldn't that be common sense? Allowing foreign countries to have access to our military fighting forces, the potential for somebody to give them something, whether to poison them directly or slowly kill them or otherwise, it would seem that you wouldn't want to source any of the food products, because the argument is, if you want, of course, we know this about athletes, and we had a doctor on yesterday. We were talking about that athletic performance and athletic optimization, and we were talking about he does blood filtering, he does EBU, and he filters things out of people's bloods. And by the way, much of what you've described here, a lot of these items are what they're filtering out of the blood, whether it's plastics, heavy metals, mercury, aluminum, lead. This is what they're finding getting filtered out of our own bodies. Of course, the argument is we have a teaspoon of plastic in our brain by the age we are now. But it's frightening. This seems like common sense to me. I have to ask this, though. I have to ask you this. You got the MREs, those are available, but how did you get the stuff out of the cafeteria? Did those food or those meals have to be smuggled out? I'm assuming they had to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
They were from military base, families that are Moms Across America supporters and or Children's Health Defense military chapter supporters.
Wow. Amazing work on your part. Not an easy chore.
Wait, what did you have to do?
Smuggled the cafeteria food out of the military bases so it could be tested.
Yeah. And we had a lot more at first that were willing to do it.
They wouldn't let you, like if you were in the barracks, they wouldn't let you take some of your cafeteria food back to your barracks?
They should be able to. Yeah, they should be able to. So that's why we didn't think it would be that big of a deal to take, to say, hey, can I have a burger and fries to go? That type of thing. And maybe that's what some did. We did have a lot more that volunteered, but then I think some people got concerned about, participating. So we ended up ordering more MREs than we, had originally planned on. But either way, it's a substantial number of military meals that we sampled, and it's a wide variety. And we tested the meats for the veterinary drugs and hormones, which I want to talk about a little bit more. We found.
Can I start you with something first, though? I want to start you first with.
Sure.
This is crazy on this total contamination. I've kind of got an order here because I want the audience to really grasp the gravity of this. Because of course the performance optimization that you would hope our troops have in the field, when you're carrying packs and you're carrying go bags and you're 30, 60 pounds, depending on what you're carrying, or what you're required to do. You would want these guys to be getting the best food in the world, you would think. You would want them to get the best nutrition in the world, because if you want the best, I know we go online, and this is the point I want to make, and then I'm going to lead you in. Constantly we're talking about that we have the finest military in the world, right? That's a claim that our administration regularly makes. It's a claim that the Department of Defense makes, Pete Hegseth makes. But that would seem to me as an athlete, and these guys are athletes, they've been trained. Many of them have to get in incredible shape, especially our special forces units, the obligation of what you have to perform as a Navy SEAL or a MARSOC or otherwise. You have to be at peak performance. This is the shocking part to me. You would think that the military would say, hey, we want these guys to be able to perform in the field, long hikes, endurance, of course, great cardio. This is not what you feed people. You don't stick garbage into a professional athlete. If you're going to the NFL or NBA or MMA guys, they're feeding themselves in optimum ways, trying to maximize oxygenation in the blood, trying to maximize muscle development. This is not what you do. So let's start with this. Total contamination. There wasn't any wiggle room here. 100% of the samples. Now, listen to this closely in the audience. 100% of the samples had pesticides, up to 26 different ones in one item. It wasn't like they just found one pesticide. They all had heavy metals, arsenic, cadmium, lead, mercury, and aluminum. and a bunch of other residues, which I'm not even sure what that means scientifically because I'm not a scientist. Maybe you can explain for the audience, as an expert in GMO, Zen, holy shit, 100%? Are you freaking kidding me? I mean, this is basically garbage we're feeding our troops.
And it's a lot of pesticides, 62 pesticides. And when we did testing for school lunches and fast food, it was 29 and 27 pesticides. When the ABC News channel Spotlight on America tested school lunches, they found 52 pesticides. This is the highest number of pesticides that we have found in any of our testing over the past 13 years. And 100% of these pesticides found in 100% of the samples are made in China. Some of them are also made in other countries, but 65% of them are primarily or solely made in China. And keep in mind, this is a huge amount of the federal taxpayer dollars that are going towards this food. We subsidize the food system, right? The federal money given to the agriculture system is over $200 billion a year. But guess how much of that goes to feeding Americans? Only 20%. 80% of what is produced in the United States from our agriculture industry is exported. 80%. So when we're dumping subsidies into the agriculture industry, which is primarily corn and soy, these row crops, they call them, corn and soy and wheat and, canola oil and all of that, it's being exported to feed other countries. Now, I'm a fan of being generous, but how about growing food in America to feed Americans that we can regulate and know that it's not going to be toxic and poisoning the military? 100% of the samples positive with pesticides that cause their human carcinogens, liver tumor, thyroid effects, altered organ development, genotoxicity, developmental effects in utero. These are things that are known and they're to cause reproductive damage, and they are banned in other countries.
And what you
Lance, hold on, Lance. I want to bring something up because I'm looking this. I looked this up, and all the military MREs they use the wording are primarily manufactured in the U.S. That doesn't mean they're all manufactured. But I'm just curious.
Choice of words.
There's three vendors: Ameriquel, that's in Indiana; Sopacco, I think it's in South Carolina and Tennessee, and then Warnock, which is in Blue Ash, Ohio. Have you reached out to any of them?
No, not yet. We just got somebody who reached out to us though, who makes organic MREs. So
which in itself would be an amazing improvement. But here's my and for the audience, you guys, this should, and I don't give a shit what your political beliefs are. You know that. I only believe there's two sides in this fight. It's traitors and patriots. And that goes for the conservative Americans, liberals, and nonpartisans. You would have to think that you would all be concerned that we're going up against fighting forces that Zen's already gotten the information that they don't serve their fighting forces this crap. They're serving them non-GMO. They don't even allow GMO in the country in a lot of cases. We know about that. We know about the manipulations of our seed banks, and really what we're dealing with is tremendous damage. They're killing all the biosphere, I guess what they call that, the biome.
Microbiome.
Yeah, the biome in our soil. And let's talk about one that comes into the news a lot. They try to blame it on gluten, and we're talking about glyphosate. 95% of the samples exceeded harmful thresholds, up to 63.9 ppb, 600 times Dr. Don Huber's 0.1 ppb danger level, which can cause organ damage, gut destruction, of course, kill all your probiotics in your intestines and your stomach, and nutrient lockup. Now, for the audience, I'd like to hear in the chat, I mean, do you guys think this is a good idea that we're feeding our troops this kind of shit? I mean, it really is. It's crap. And they're going to go up against other troops that are getting fed in a much better manner. And I love how we critique the Russian military, of course, because of the interaction in Ukraine, and we critique the Chinese, but it looks like they've figured it out, and we have it. Zen, were you shocked when you saw how much of this glyphosate was in our food for the military troops?
Well, after testing school lunches and fast food, honestly, no, I wasn't shocked, but I was very disappointed because I thought military grade might apply to the food, right? The term military grade means the highest quality, the best quality. And I was hoping that we would find that military food was better sourced, was more nutrient dense, was more, clean, free and clear of veterinary drugs and hormones. And unfortunately, that's not what we're finding. We did find higher nutrients in some places which are fortified, but we have nutritionists now taking a second pass at the data for nutrient density, and they're very concerned about some of the levels of the fortification because that can be harmful. But there is evidence that the military has fortified the food to make it more nutrient dense. So we're going to come back. I will report back more on the nutrient density again. But glyphosate takes out the nutrients. So no matter how nutrient dense your food is, if you're also consuming glyphosate, you're going to be reducing the amount of nutrients in your food. And I have to share that what it does in crops in the fields, according to Dr. Don Huber, who's quoted in the article, he's a 60-year plant pathologist and has worked for NASA. He says that 1/40th, meaning a drift level exposure of glyphosate, if it comes in contact with a crop, will reduce the nutrient uptake into the root of the plant by 20 to 85% and into the shoot of the plant, which is what we eat, by 80 to 95%. And those nutrients are iron, zinc, and magnesium. And those are the foundation of our immune system. That's why when you get sick, you take zinc, right?
Yeah.
So and everybody needs magnesium, and a lot of people need iron. That's because of glyphosate. Glyphosate's a chelator, meaning it grabs onto and makes unavailable the vital nutrients of any living thing it touches. So it's basically giving the plant AIDS, like an autoimmune disease, and then the plant dies because of the normally harmless bacteria in the soil. That's how Dr. Huber describes it. So that's what it's doing to humans. So our military consuming glyphosate at any level means that it's weakening their immune system.
And the microbiome in the soil, a lot of people don't realize the destruction of that is really damaging our crops nationwide, because the farmers that have figured out how to put that back in are having incredible results. We've had some experts on the show that have covered that. You can go back at our history of our shows and watch that.
To restore the soil, you mean?
I got to ask George. George, are you shocked in your own way? I am, because you would think this. You would think that a smart, at least if it was me, I'm running the U.S. military tomorrow. I would be looking at, because there is some obesity issues in the military, right? We've got a lot of our fighting force that you see them, they're overweight. And that's not the fighting force I want to see. I want to see honed, skilled warriors. I don't expect them to be necessarily across the board, because there are lots of support structures.
So you're saying a overweight transgender is still no good either, right? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, an overweight transgender in the military is not my idea of an elite fighting force, because I don't expect everybody to be Navy SEAL quality, of course. Our special forces are at a higher level, but I would want to see a level of conditioning. Now, I don't know if you've done this yet, Zen, a profile, a perfect profile. If you could describe that for the audience, what would you describe a perfect set of nutrient dense food? What would you expect the military to be getting at a basic level, so that, of course, they could perform at a higher level when they're performing their duties? What do you think that looks like? Because it seems to me like Pete Hegseth should know this. The Trump administration should know this. I would recommend they hire you as a consultant to help fix this bullshit right here. But what do you think the perfect system? And then we're going to go into the rest of what you found. What would it look like? What should we be feeding the military? How much protein and the rest of it? If you want to go on a limb here, I'm going to put you on spot. What do you think it should look like?
To be fair, I'm not a nutritionist, so I can't. I have some wonderful nutritionists that are on my team, but what I would expect is that it would be non-toxic and nutrient dense. And by non-toxic, I would mean not having any presence of glyphosate or toxic pesticides or heavy metals or veterinary drugs and hormones, because the presence of those things also reduce the nutrients, right? So it's a double whammy, and the toxins cause liver disease, cancer, endocrine disruption, hormone disruption, neurotoxicity. They are eating known neurotoxins. That's what's happening, that affect their brains. They're eating things that affect their immune system. They're eating things that affect their hormonal system, which can cause aggression and combativeness. They're eating a veterinary drug and hormone called narcobazine, which is an aviary contraceptive. It causes it's a contraceptive in birds, and our military is eating this. Right.
And let me ask you this. Do you think we've seen this weird DEI thing, right? Because we've seen many of them in the military What about the hormonal imbalances this is causing?
This is definitely impacting their hormonal imbalance. And that's why you see man boobs on a lot of these men, because their hormones are imbalanced because they're eating endocrine disrupting chemicals, which cause belly fat and man boobs. And that's not ideal for physical fitness and for optimal performance. And it affects their mood, right?
Unless you're one of them transgenders, but
yeah, unless you want man boobs on your military.
I mean, didn't we see like with the Biden administration how they were trying to like weaken our military by letting all this DEI transgender? So, how do we know how long this has been happening with our military food?
No, we don't know. But these samples they contain ingredients that were most likely grown during the Biden administration. You know, the wheat and the meat and all of that. We got the samples in, I think, July. And it's taken a long time to test and to get all the report together. But so those samples were most likely from animals and grains and all that grown the year before, which would have been the Biden administration. Not to get political on anybody, but we're not trying to attack. We're not attacking the Trump administration.
Yeah. So I just want to make this clear. So we're talking, so people understand, we're not only talking about the MREs, we're talking about the food that they give our military in their cafeteria.
Yes. There's cafeteria food.
Okay. Because you look at MREs, I was just, because two of my mods are retired Air Force. Actually, one was worked in food service and dietherapy, believe it or not. And so I said, I go, wait a minute, how often are you guys eating MREs? I mean, unless you're in combat, and really a lot of them said, no, they really don't, unless they're doing like a road trip or something. But then you have the cafeteria food. So everybody knows that, understands,
Yeah, we're not just talking about a select sample. These came straight out of the cafeterias, and everybody eats in the cafeteria. You don't necessarily. I don't know what the food. Did you get anything out of the officers' mess hall at all? Was there anything with the officers? Was there any difference or no?
I don't have awareness about that. I love these questions because I can go back and double check with the people who collected. I don't know that. I will check.
I think it's unlikely that it's different because I know how the military sources a lot of their goods. Having dealt with some stuff years ago, I know how they source things. I would imagine the materials are the same. Not that sometimes the officers' mess hall doesn't have items that aren't in the general mess hall. Of course they do. But at the end of the day, let me back up here for the audience. Most of them know it, but my wife is an IFBB bikini pro. She trains professional athletes and other competitors around the nation. She's always looking at their macros and what they're doing diet-wise. They'll submit stuff to her, and she's on her phone sending them back. This is a mistake. That's me. She's really very, very knowledgeable. So we probably eat better at my home as far as what we're using for materials and otherwise. I'm always concerned, of course, very cost prohibitive if you're buying organic or you're buying foods that you believe are non-GMO. The pricing shouldn't be as high as it is, but it is. You have to really run a budget because you can spend an awful lot of money on it. But this one right here, for everybody out there, heavy metals are extremely dangerous. And I think the bioaccumulation bomb that you've uncovered here, you discovered that the aluminum hit 34,800 ppb, which I want the audience to listen closely. So that number might not mean a lot to anybody. But that, and again, I'm not saying I think the EPA guidelines or the FDA, I'm not telling you those guidelines are perfect. I think sometimes they're to the heavy side, but that number exceeds by 17,300% over EPA guidelines. The cadmium that was in there was 928% over. The arsenic, which everybody knows arsenic to be a poison, is 430% over. I mean, these just so that you know, these are the kind of levels that will wreck your brain, your kidneys, your heart, your reproductive organs. This is really a crazy number. When you got that number on the aluminum, were you shocked that it was that high?
Yes, I was. However, we have seen high numbers very similar to this in Girl Scout cookies and in baby formula and in our.
I think you just made a lot of people sad.
Did you just say Girl Scout cookies?
Yeah, the Samoa. Is it the Samoas? Is that what they call it? Samoans or Samoas? One of the favorite cookies of the Girl Scout.
Can you bake, Zen?
Yeah, I bake.
You got to bake us organic Samoans now because you just ruined it for us.
Yeah, you just the whole audience is cringing because everybody over the years has bought those cookies at one time or another to support the Girl Scouts.
I haven't made Samoas recently or yet, actually, but I love those ingredients. So that should be at the top.
Yeah, it's a great tasting cookie. I don't eat a lot of cookies anymore at my age. I don't eat a lot of sugar. I have a tough time with the crunchy, salty foods.
I love those. Those are my favorite. Salty caramel,
crunchy, salty foods are what do me the damage. But this is, can you explain to the audience with those kind of levels that effectively, and let's say that we have a career military member, somebody that served for this country honorably for a very long time, the accumulation of that kind of aluminum, what would that, how would their brain function as compared to somebody that wasn't getting that amount of aluminum?
They're going to have a much higher chance of getting autism or Alzheimer's. I'll tell you that. According to science from Dr. Christopher Exley, who has inspected the brains of deceased adults with that had, or young people that had autism and adults that had Alzheimer's, and he found higher levels of aluminum in particular parts of the brains of these people, and he attributed as causational that aluminum has caused that autism or Alzheimer's. And I believe that's in conjunction with glyphosate, because glyphosate, when it's in fact, we found it in vaccines. It's also, in the majority of our food if you're not eating organic. Glyphosate is a chelator. As I mentioned before, it grabs onto and makes unavailable the vital nutrients of any living thing it touches. It also carries those minerals and heavy metals into the brain. It breaks through the blood-brain barrier. It breaks through cell barrier, can go into the liver, the kidney, the organs, and deposit that aluminum in those particular places. And that's exactly what Dr. Christopher Exley found in the brains of people with autism and Alzheimer's. So I believe that it's in conjunction with glyphosate and aluminum is causing these serious mental health disorders.
We're going to take.
Hold on, Lance.
Oh, go ahead.
Hold on. Let me just say something, because before I forget. Yesterday we had a doctor on, and he's from Florida, but he specializes, does blood filtering, taking out all those toxins and stuff and heavy metals out of your body. And it's around like that. You're on the show telling us about this. Crazy.
I mean, and blood filtering as an option for the military would be amazing, because, of course, maybe we could leach this out of all our veterans and our combat veterans and our active military. Listen, we're going to be talking more about aluminum. I want to know about the toothpaste and the deodorant the military is using. If you're not using aluminum-free toothpaste, if you're not using a natural fiber toothbrush, we're going to talk about that with Zen, because I know she knows all about that. We'll be right back here on the Big Mig Show on this breaking story. Stay tuned. George Ballantine, Lance Miliaccio, and our guest, Zen Honeycutt. Take the live link. Here's your homework while we're on the break. Share it far and wide. I think America needs to know about this, and it's up to you and the audience to help us spread the word. And hit that follow button while we're on break. And if you want to throw us a $5 subscription, please do. Or if you want to buy Rumble Premium, that's a great way to support Rumble, because where the hell else are you going to get this information? It's how we expose the truth. We'll be right back.
Are you ready to stand up for your community and support your local sheriff? Join the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association and become a vital member of the Sheriff's Citizens Posse. At CSPOA.org, we empower citizens like you through weekly webinars, arming you with the knowledge to back your constitutional county sheriff. Together, we can uphold our Constitution and ensure liberty and justice for all. Your community needs you now more than ever. Visit CSPOA.org and join the Sheriff's Citizens Posse today. Make a difference. Stand for freedom. That's CSPOA.org. Your country, your fight, your future.
What if you could predict your financial future? And what if you could trade on it? Introducing Block Trust IRA, the future in your hands. An astonishing 88,000 millionaires were created last year from the Bitcoin boom, and you could be next. Block Trust IRA is the only crypto management firm powered by AI-driven strategies, ranked #1 in the world by Bitcoin Magazine. The Block Trust IRA platform is built for everyone, from first-time buyers to seasoned investors. Predictive AI technology that was once only reserved for insiders and elites is now available to you. It's time to leave the old buy and hold strategies behind. Your assets are protected with military-grade security, offline cold storage, and $200 million in insurance. Visit BlockTrustIRA.com to book your free consultation and ask how to claim up to $2,500 in deposit bonuses today. Bitcoin changed the game. AI changes the strategy.
Hi folks, I'm here today to introduce you to the Prepper Bar from PrepperBar.com, the most unique precious metals product we have seen in a long time. These 62-gram bars are perforated and easily broken down into your choice of 3 different sizes to fit a multitude of needs. Whether it be from asset protection from inflation, economic turmoil, or its unique utility for barter and trade, the Prepper Bar makes a perfect gift for all the precious metal lovers out there. Exclusively made here in the USA and selling out fast. Available in both gold and silver, these slim Prepper Bars fit neatly in your wallet, and their utility enables use in any situation.
Forged through rigorous training and honed by the finest instructors on Earth, these canine units serve beside our nation's warriors as they fight to preserve what we cherish. When these warriors complete their duty, the Warrior Dog Foundation provides them with a home deserving of the service they've given us all. At our state-of-the-art kennels, they receive rehabilitation and care suitable for heroes, because that's what they are. Be a part of giving them a future today. Visit warriordogfoundation.org.
Welcome back to the Big Mig Show. Here with your host, Lance Migliaccio, yours truly, George Ballantine, and our guest, Zen Honeycutt from Moms Across America. But don't forget to hit that thumbs up, like button, follow, share, and that red Big Mig Mafia button. Subscribe, $5 a month. But Lance, I have a question. When we talk about organic, right? And I don't know how it is for food, but so my friend, he owned a big dry cleaning, like high end. And one of his, they said they were organic. And I said to him, I go, how are you organic? And it's, as long as you have I don't know if it's a percentage or use 1 or 2 organic stuff, you can say that you're organic, even though it's not 100% organic. I don't know how it is with food, because somebody brought that up in the chat too, and it just made me think of that. Do we know? Anybody know?
It has to be 95% organic in order to be called organic. If you have 100% organic, then it has to be 100% organic, but 95%. So that means 5% could still be GMOs. There could still be ingredients that are not organic. So it's very, it's very disappointing. We've found 20% of organic foods that have been tested thus far, especially protein powders, because they contain soy and peas and things like that. 20% of them are contaminated with glyphosate.
Protein powders?
Protein powders. Yeah.
Yeah. I know you got to be the protein powder expert, you or your wife. What do we got? You know anything that's good?
There are a couple of brands. My wife only buys certain protein powders because of that. But I want to hop on something we were talking about backstage for a second before we transition into that, because that is an issue. Let me tell you, the nutrients in a lot of the supplements that are out there, you have to be, of course, there's other things that are in there. My wife talks about the protein sugars and other things, and the way that they sweeten it with synthetic sweeteners. She tries to find natural sweeteners. It's complicated, though. A lot of the products aren't what people think. But let's talk about the aluminum for a second. I wanted to double check that I was giving you guys accurate information backstage. So approximately 22% of toothpaste brands in certain markets contain aluminum compounds, which I guess covers about 60% of the market share. So they have 60% market penetration. I guess they use it as an abrasive in toothpaste, along with aluminum hydroxide, which I'm not sure how much more dangerous that is, and also hydrated aluminum. I know you haven't done the testing on that yet, but we know that the military, we've got deodorant and toothpaste, and we know the toothbrushes are plastic in most cases. Isn't that also adding to this? Isn't it potentially the fact that maybe they're being exposed to that? Because we don't know that they're filtering the products offered in the commissary for individuals. They go in there and buy a lot of their hygiene and otherwise because they don't like the products that are provided by the military for free. But I can't tell you that they're even screening the products that are offered in there. Zen, is there any screening on the commissary products?
Not that I know of. I know there is a nurses group that is trying very hard to have the commissary products to be all organic. That's something that I do hope that this administration will take a look at. And it should be noted that the levels that are set, the allowable daily intake or the maximum residue levels of these pesticides or contaminants, they're all based on that one product with consumption of one portion of that. It's not based on a cumulative effect of multiple meals, body care, air, rain, water. They don't assess the, full accumulation or the synergistic effects. When they're having, 29 different pesticides in one sample, along with heavy metals, along with veterinary drugs and hormones, along with glyphosate, what is happening in the body there? And what's happening to different unique people? Everybody's different. One of my sons has a very high level of iron. He could give blood. He has so much iron. The other one is such low iron. We need to look at supplementation, right? Everybody is different. So stating that a certain level of pesticides or heavy metals is safe is also a very tricky concept, right? Because some people have, I don't know if you do, but have the MTHFR gene and other gene variants that impair a person's ability to detox. So people like that, even very low levels,
which at the best of all cases, when they're being enlisted, you would think some of that testing, maybe even, and again, I'm not trying to be too intrusive, but to have a screening on our military members to be able to tweak what they're being provided to optimize their performance would be an additional, it's great that we have directed energy weapons. It's great that we have advanced technology on cloaking. We know there's a lot of weapons the military doesn't talk about. We see it come out. We're shocked. I think Trump coined a name for something. Hopefully,
discombobulator.
Yeah. I don't know why he chose that word. I don't know if the military's called it discombobulator. I didn't like that choice. The way it was described, I think it's confusing. But you would think that, let's say a military member's coming in, you would think that a DNA assessment, a blood profile assessment to see how we optimize that individual, especially when it comes to special forces, but it should go for all our military. Here, we're not doing that. We're not doing any of it, as a matter of fact, based on this, which seems like we're poisoning our forces. Let's talk about the long-term health consequences. You came up with this, and I don't even know what this is. What is hydroxydemetritridazole? I don't even know if I pronounced it right. Hopefully I did. I've never heard of it. What the hell is that? Because you found out there's no safe level of that, and it's in their meat, and it causes DNA damage. It's cancer-linked. There's also something called trenbolone acetate, which is a synthetic steroid. It causes heart, hormone, and aggression risks, and it's all coming from imported meats.
Yes. Well,
Can you explain those? Because I've never heard of those two chemicals.
Yeah, we think so. So they are, one's an antimicrobial drug and one is an anabolic steroid. So they give a lot of the meat or the livestock cattle steroids to grow their muscles so that they get fatter faster, right? They're ready to harvest faster. The problem is a lot of these, like the trenbolone acetate, also butanediol was found in fast food. It was found in, I think, 60% of the top 10 fast food companies. It causes combativeness and aggression. So when you give animals these steroids and then humans consume them, right? You're more likely to have aggressive humans. You're more likely to have child abuse, domestic abuse, road rage, right? School shootings, mass shootings. So Americans are consuming veterinary drugs and hormones that are causing aggression. Well, lo and behold, look at what's happening. We have 1 to 3 mass shootings a day in America now. So it's a very serious issue that we are not regulating. And we're even making it available for our farmers to use these steroids. How about we level the playing field and we have animals that are grown without steroids? How about nobody gets to use them, right? And your cow, your pig, your chicken has to be fattened up with real food, on real pastures and real corn and soy, not GMO, and they are grown naturally, and we are able to feed our military and human beings non-toxic, nutrient-dense food. That's what needs to happen.
It's interesting. As a guy that has used performance-enhancing drugs over the years myself, I have used them. I can definitely confirm the aggression. I don't know that necessarily the aggression would be it's difficult in chain of command. I can tell you that having taken, steroids at different times in my life and growth hormone, it definitely does impact. You have to be, and of course, I'm sure in the military, chain of command doesn't necessarily want all of that. I'm sure they want some of the aggression, but you're right. It does impact you, and it does affect you long-term. Because of it, I have to take testosterone supplementation because I'm sure I've damaged my own system in my own way from what I've used. And now that is banned in the military. You're not supposed to use performance-enhancing drugs. They take extra time to test our special forces, not necessarily our regular military. But having used those and having used them to the benefit, it did improve my performance in a lot of ways, made me stronger, faster. Of course, I had more fast twitch and slow twitch muscle fibers. But it is concerning because when you start to have an imbalance and your estrogen levels spike, gynecomastia, which is what you described earlier, man boobs, it happens because, of course, your estrogen goes into overcycle. And there are a lot of things. Now, there are a lot of products that have high levels of estrogen in them. A lot of people have attributed soybeans to causing imbalances in estrogen increases. And I'm sure that they use to supplement the cost for food, which is a mistake. They do that. So it's a double-edged sword in a way, because I know performance enhancing drugs. I know years ago, a lot of the special forces operators were taking different products. They were taking things that were legal, then they became non-illegal, DHEA and other products. But let me talk for the audience, let me say this. It's the combination. This isn't being scientifically done. They're taking this in, and there's no measurement. There's no blood testing. There's no intent to make sure they're protected.
All of these veterinary drugs and hormones are banned in most countries or not allowed for human use. These should not be in the food, period. Not even a small amount. Some of them are, there's absolutely no safe level, and that's why they're banned in Europe, Canada, and the United States. And yet they're showing up in the food. There should be a recall. There should be immediate funding putting into testing to determine whether or not the meat that the troops are eating is contaminated. And there should be immediate funding going in to feeding our troops American regeneratively raised meat from our American farmers. Wouldn't that be fantastic?
I think it'd be fantastic because we'd be supporting our farmers. They'd have a new financial vertical. You also found PFOS, forever chemical spikes. You tested one beef stew, and it had 30 times the EPA drinking water limit, which causes immune suppression and developmental harm. And then nutrient starvation. We talked about that. Many of the minerals were below USDA whole food standards. And I don't necessarily agree that USDA is the standard. There's a lot of things we've discovered that are on the USDA list, which are way too low. Just as you described, one person might need to supplement their iron, as you have found in your own child. And another one doesn't need to because they've got crazy high levels of iron. Let's talk about the foreign threat. I think one of the massive things you've discovered here, which we know it already, it exists. And George, you talked about this the other day. We were talking about you and I had a discussion about chips and the back doors built into some of our infrastructure in our power grid, and the concern that a lot of the electronic equipment that's being produced and used in our military and otherwise is coming out of China. Now, you and I George discussed how bad that is and how dangerous that is.
Well, I mean, look at McAfee. He built a backdoor into his systems. We know that for a fact.
Yeah.
But I mean, technically he did it for the greater good. He was a bad guy, but doing good things. But I mean, we shouldn't be doing buying any chips, anything from China. We should just ban all products, anything manufactured in China, because
it's a problem.
You don't know if what is it? DJI Osmo. Now you can't buy any more of their products because it's China made, and something they're saying about threats and stuff. Well,
their drones had surveillance.
Not only drones, they have
them.
cameras and everything. So if they ban that one company, if China's using that, what other products are they using? You know, it's crazy thank God they sold TikTok, but when you bought I don't know if it's a Samsung or LG TV, TikTok was automatically on it and you couldn't get it off. I was like, what?
Yeah. Well, that's a grooming product. I don't like. George is
forget about grooming, favorable. But you're saying if they have TikTok on and they have that technology, they could be watching you through your screen or knowing what you're watching.
That was the technology.
A lot of information.
DJI, they said that the Chinese had access, and of course, if somebody was using a drone that had a drone camera, that China had access. So if you were flying a drone over an area, no matter where it was at, they could access those details, and China has downloaded all that data.
They can probably,
like you're spying for the
they
foreign
can
government.
access it with their satellites, though. So I don't really. Yeah. I think it's more their products where your handheld cameras and stuff that use more on a personal level or business level versus drones. That's what I think. I could be wrong.
Well, when I read about it, they talked about the access, and so this is a foreign threat, and to me, this is maybe one of the biggest things you found. 100% of the pesticides from China and other countries, basically 65% mainly from China, and then also glyphosate producers, 85.7% China owned. Yeah. And also the drugs often Chinese sourced. How much of a threat do you feel like you now looking back, how big a problem? This seems to be, to me, gigantic, that our military forces are being exposed to something. And the question is, did China, in a nefarious manner, decide that any of the products they were shipping to our country that might be being used by our troops, meats or otherwise, maybe they're just raising the levels. Maybe those cows are kept in a separate area, or what other products we're importing. Am I jumping the gun here, or is it just as bad as it sounds like it is to me, Zen?
Well, we know that China doesn't feed, we know, at least I knew at that time, that China doesn't feed their military GMOs. So I would guess that they're being extra careful about not feeding their military glyphosate, and other toxic chemicals as well, that they're ensuring that their military has the best quality food. And I think we should be doing the same thing. I know that we import 15,000 orders were made from China to the USA just of glyphosate last year. 15 to $20 billion worth of pesticides. We pay China for those pesticides and then use them on our food. Why are we doing that? Why are we spending taxpayer dollars giving that money to China and then poisoning our food with it? I know people will say it's more convenient for the farmers, but you know what's not convenient? Cancer. Cancer is really not convenient.
Yeah, it's not very convenient. Of course, it runs our VA bills up.
Yeah.
What if, Zen? What if every MRE and cafeteria meal that our troops is eating is being secretly dosing them with up to 26 different pesticides? And I think you mentioned a higher number at once, because 100% of the samples were contaminated, and many of those samples were from China. So these chemical cocktails, what if it's intentional? How, this
I don't know. I can't say, I don't interpret people's intention. I don't know if it's intentional, but I do know that China makes an awful lot of money from these pesticides. And I do know that they're in the food. And we do know that farmers are being allowed to use them. And they're being told by this EPA and many previous EPAs before that it's safe to use these pesticides. There's over 1,000 something pesticides that they're using. 86 of them are banned in other countries. Banned. 86. And we're still using those 86 pesticides.
So I thought, with the Maha movement and Kennedy, that they were going to get ahead of all that.
Yeah.
But yet it's so difficult to get all this stuff banned. Like they keep saying it's banned in all these other countries. Like I know they got rid of a couple things, some of the red dye and all that, but that's just my
those are not pesticides. So
I know, yeah.
Trump said on his presidential platform the words pesticides, autism, and childhood chronic disease, shaking Kennedy's hand, having Kennedy come on his team, telling him he could go wild in front of the American public. We cried, we mothers that have been struggling with our children's autism, autoimmune, asthma, all kinds of health issues, allergies. We cried because we were so happy to finally see a presidential platform, a presidential candidate say the word pesticides and childhood illness and autism in one sentence. Holy mackerel, we're like, this man has got to be president. So there are so many Democrats and independent moms who switched over and voted for Trump to get Kennedy into that position to make sure that we would get rid of pesticides. Now, the problem is that Kennedy is not the head of the EPA. He's the head of the HHS, and every single day, at least multiple times a week, Kennedy has put out information and programs and policies and things that improve our health, or especially around vaccines and drugs, right? But he hasn't been able to do anything at the EPA. And for a solid year, this EPA, as far as I know, has not put out anything to reduce our children's exposure to toxic pesticides. Not one restriction, not one ban. Yeah. And I'm tired of it.
It's called Susan Wiles in the way.
Yeah, and I want to add to that, George. I think you're right.
Nancy Beck is the biggest pesticide, promoter, and Kyle Klunkler and Doug Troutman are there, and their background is the pesticide companies, and there's a heavy
they protect them.
Wait, who?
Nancy Beck is the head of the pesticide department at the EPA. Kyle Klunkler is one of the biggest pesticide promoters, lobbyists that out there, and Doug Troutman as well. And those three are in prominent positions at the EPA. And Lee Zeldin hired them on because they had experience with pesticides. They've been promoting pesticides for their entire career. So that's why I believe there's been nothing done about this, except for they just announced after we did a petition to fire Lee Zeldin, and we, that got their attention. We had some meetings with the EPA. They say that they want a MAHA. They're going to work with us. They did announce a review of paraquat. Now, paraquat's been in the food system, I think 50, 60 years, and they haven't been monitoring it at all. So they are announcing a review of paraquat, but a review,
but a review is bullshit.
A review does not, reduce our exposure to paraquat. It's only looking at documents. So we're waiting, not with bated breath.
On this show, we talk about that constantly. That what we have is the majority of Congress on both sides of L are a complete worthless sack of shit. There are some top members that we're okay with, but I think it's a very small number, maybe 15 or 20 of them. The rest of them are conniving lobbyists, grifting liars, and cheats. They lie to the American public on a daily basis, even using constitutional sufficiency that says they can lie in Congress without any consequences. And we see it over and over again. So for anybody that thinks we have an effective Congress, they're full of shit. I'm going to tell you right now that 15 to 20% of them might not be bought, but the rest of them are bought and paid for by these chemical industry members. Of course, that includes the big ag, one of the most powerful lobbyists in DC. But let me put this in terms that people can get. So imagine that one meal, let's say that the military is having a chicken meal, and the aluminum in that meal is 17,300% over. I don't know how bad the drinking water is they're getting, but we're talking about 34,800 ppb. It's accumulating in their brains and organs. Is this the hidden reason? And I have to ask you, for rising neurological issues, fatigue, and long-term damage among service members?
It's definitely a contributing factor. And then glyphosate as well causes neurological damage. There's atrazine. Actually, I'm sorry.
Is there fluoride in their water? Did you test their water? Is it being extra fluoridated?
We didn't test the water. We'd love to get, we had some people collect samples, but we didn't have the funding this time around to, get everybody to get water samples and to test them. We would love to do that. We would love to test for mycotoxins. Mycotoxins are a huge issue right now in grains and beans because glyphosate increases the growth of two different kinds of mold, Aspergillus and Fusarium. It increases those molds by 15 times with just drift level exposure of glyphosate. And the byproducts of those molds are mycotoxins like xenolone and ochratoxin and a couple different mycotoxins, and they cause depression and can contribute to suicide. And military soldiers, it is some of the highest rates, besides farmers, our veterans have some of the highest rates of suicide out there. Now, I know they go through traumatic things, but if you're eating a mycotoxin, you're going to be much less likely to be able to handle that trauma in your life. If you already have something in your body because of the food you're eating that is contributing to depression. And I am concerned that there's high levels of mycotoxins in the military food because of that.
I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, the arsenic you found 430% over safe levels in smoothie powders. So you go into the mess hall and you think you're doing yourself some justice. You're going to get a smoothie because you're worried about the food. You're one of those guys that's paying attention. You go get a smoothie and you don't realize you're loading yourself up with arsenic.
Do you know what arsenic does? So
it accumulates in the body, doesn't it? Accumulate over time.
It
does. Stays in there.
One of our moms, her husband is a truck driver, and he had to get a hazmat license because he was going to be transporting chicken feed. And that was because there were high levels of arsenic on it. And when you look up what arsenic does and why like the Chinese and some people feed their chickens arsenic, it's because it causes the stomach to bloat, to expand. It makes them sick, basically. And then they eat more. And when they eat more, they get fatter faster. And then they're more ready for harvest.
And all that arsenic goes into their meat.
Yum.
So you just load it up. You get that nice big full chicken breast. It's not a chicken that's been, that's a free range.
It's
chicken.
A poison. Yeah.
You wonder, you get that giant breast. Well, yeah, it looks great and it's appealing when you buy it compared to maybe the organic chickens. But of course, it's because they're loaded up and they're holding water. And of course, a lot of that comes from the inflammation of the body. Well, what do they want? They want a high water account because when you ring up your chicken and then you cook it and it shrinks down, you wonder why it's shrinking. Well, that's the reason.
Yeah, plus they've been consuming glyphosate, which destroys your beneficial gut bacteria. So these chickens develop a high antibiotic resistance, right? They give them antibiotics, but then they develop resistance. So about 80% of the bacteria that women get, it's the E. coli salmonella for UTIs, it comes from chicken that's been confined animal feeding operation raised, CAFO raised. So that's why I never eat chicken out unless I know that it's organic and pasture raised. I'll buy beef instead. I don't buy chicken.
This is a number. My mom likes applesauce. I don't eat a lot of applesauce. You discovered, and I want to bring this up to the audience. So a lot of kids feed their kids applesauce. You buy the baby food that's at, my daughter liked it when she was little, the strained, I don't know about how dangerous the baby food is, but who knows now. I don't know that I did as much organic as I could, but I'm sure there were times when I didn't do it because I was in a rush. And I raised my daughter with my mom. My ex wasn't involved in most of it. So one sample you tested had over 1,300 ppb total pesticide residues, including probable carcinogens like chlorothalonil and pyramethylanyl. I don't know if I'm even getting those close the way I pronounce those. Never heard of either one of them. How is this acceptable, Zen, for the food fueling mission that I think is critical for performance in the military, that they're going to go get some applesauce and a smoothie and they probably just load it up with more bad chemicals than anybody would ever hope they're eating? Isn't this, it feels intentional that it's so bad that nobody's ever decided to even look at the food.
It's extremely concerning. You would think that with the resources that not just this administration, but every administration has given to the military, that somebody would be testing and monitoring and enforcing. It's just a quality control issue. Some of these tests, like our heavy metals, are $85 or $140 at most to batch test a bunch of food. It's not that expensive, and it doesn't take that long. And apparently most of these governments just print money. So do that. And so what our call to action is just a little search on AI and telling it to research, USDA, DOD databases, how much would it cost for our military to support the transition of monocrop GMO toxic chemical farmers to regenerative organic farming and supply the military with regenerative organic food that's nutrient dense and non-toxic. And what came back in our research was less than 1%. And if we added in the school lunches, 30 million school lunches a day, it would be less than 2% of the military $1.5 trillion budget would supply our military and our students, our soldiers and our students, with real American food that's regenerative and non-toxic. So I hope that Trump, gets wind of this information, is shown this information. I mean, we know we gave this information to the EPA, the HHS, the DOD, and the USDA. I hope that he's reviewing it, and I hope he signs an executive order that will say that the military is going to get 2% of their budget to regenerative organic food with a 5-year phase out, 5-year phase plan to supply them with the best quality food, with military grade, hopefully quality food, to support our country.
The truth is, with the amount of money and power that they have, I don't think they need 5 years. I think that's incredibly generous on your part. Screw that. Mm-hmm. I mean, this needs to be fixed now. You can't give bad fuel in the body. George, I know you're looking at the chat and you got other stuff. Is there anything in the audience that people would like to ask Zen about this? And what comments do you have, George?
I'm still trying to recover off that. I can't have protein and Girl Scout cookies, man. Like, it's tough. A lot of people were sad about that one in the chat.
George is still having. George might have PTSD now. We might have caused a long-term.
So sorry,
issue.
George.
I'm a lot stronger than that.
There are organic cookies out there. There are organic protein powder, but the protein powder thing is tough. You've got to find one that's been tested. I think Truvani might have been tested. Mm-hmm. There is 1 or 2 brands that were tested. I'm sorry, I don't remember the names right now, that were not present for those heavy metals or glyphosate. So just look up what the testing is. If you want to support Moms Across America to do more testing, please donate to us at momsacrossamerica.org.
Yeah, George, you put the website up a couple of times, and I did a shitty job of talking about that. So first, George, the full-blown article is up.
Hold on, I have a question for it, because we're all talking about this food and stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So if you go out to eat, how difficult is it for you? Like, you go to a restaurant or whatever.
It's challenging. I have to say, I just spent 10 days on the road traveling recently because of weather challenges, and I was stuck in Florida for a little while, and went to a conference and all different kinds of things.
That's not a bad thing, being stuck in
No,
Florida.
that wasn't bad. But it's eating out at restaurants almost every meal when I'm traveling. It's really difficult on my system. My stomach hurts afterwards. It gets in knots. It is not good for me. And I try to go to Whole Foods and get, or some type of grocery store and get organic food, but you can't always do that when you're on the run, right? When you've got an hour for lunch,
you're stuck.
Yeah, you're half an hour.
We've been there. It's difficult when you're on the road because you are analyzing. And I do agree with you. There are times when I eat out and the impact on my body, I can tell right away, like, oh God, I shouldn't have eaten that. And I find myself, as I get older, I don't enjoy food as much because, again, I probably know more than I want to know. And I end up trying to prepare so many things at home. We prepare a lot of meals. We made prepaid meals. My wife does a lot of that, and I do a lot of it. And the point is, it's a struggle, but the struggle's real. These guys are trapped. At least you as a citizen have an option to try to go to Whole Foods to buy a meal or make a good decision. These guys don't. They're on limited income. I don't like even the payments they're getting. I don't think they're being paid enough to do the job in the military. I think they all need a raise, and I'll say that they all do. And I think they need better medical. I hate the fact that the VA,
Lance, somebody in chat said,
"Yeah,
it's silent partner, Lance. You don't look a day over 70."
That's great. I appreciate that. It's a low blow, even coming from you, silent partner. Thank you.
Is that our manager or publicist? Which one is it? Is he? I don't even know.
Who?
Isn't that our manager or publicist?
Yeah, it could be. It could be. There might be Trevor's call sign there.
Oh,
knowing him.
Guess what? You know what?
Yeah.
You're going to take that because he just became a monthly supporter.
Okay. So are you saying that now every monthly support comes with an insult for me?
No, I didn't say that. Because he's insulting you, you have to take it because he became a monthly supporter.
Oh, do you mean Trevor Fitzgibbon, my PR guy?
Yeah, the PR guy, Trevor.
Oh, he's awesome. Yeah, you got to take that. Sorry, Lance.
Yeah, you know what? I'll take a low blow from Trevor. He's earned it with me. He has lots of room to do it. So, but here's the deal. That's what really we're looking at here. These guys are trapped. They don't have an option. Most of them have to eat in the chow hall. That's how it works.
A lot of them don't, though. I have to say, I've talked to them, and a lot of them don't eat at the chow hall. They spend their own money, which is, as you said, a limited resource that they get to go buy other food because they don't want the food in the chow hall. So that's very unfortunate. And
it is unfortunate. You would hope that they would look forward to the food because, again, a lot of the other things they have to put up with when they're being deployed or they're in other countries. There's lots of things they have to put up with. Having shitty food, first having food that isn't prepared very well, because I've seen it firsthand. Yeah. But then I add to it if they were to read this article, if everybody in the military would read this article, they'd be like, well, on top of it, they're poisoning us. There's a lot of reasons that they've had a tough time with enlistment, especially under Biden, but even now they struggle with it. Because, listen, this is something that you'd have in the back of your mind. Like, do I really want to enlist and find myself being forced to eat in the chow hall at different times? And I know that I'm actually eating poison. And this food is terrible based on everything you've discovered. So it's an awful, awful thing. So let's talk about the website and let's talk about moms across America.
He said you look like a healthy Yul Brenner.
A healthy Yul Brenner. Yul Brenner had a reputation in Hollywood. I'm not going to go into the details.
We're not talking about reputation. We're talking about looks.
Okay.
Don't try to twist it. Don't try to make it into something that it is.
I could make it into something else there, but I'm not going to go down that because we have Zen on the show. I'm not going to go down that road.
Let's go. You want me to go to your article? Or you want me to go to the website?
The website is momsacrossamerica.org, and our article is under the blog, or also under data and where we have testing, military food testing. We also have school lunches there. We have fast food there. We have a ton of testing under data. Yeah. And that's our homepage for our website. And we have all kinds of data under, studies on GMOs, on glyphosate, on pesticides. So yeah, if you go there to data and then you click on the testing, you can
critical information and a critical website to support what they're doing. This is the kind of work you want as a parent for your own family, ways to protect it. They have got tons of information on here that's all beneficial to you. So if you can financially support them, you definitely want to make a donation. In the meantime, I'm going to make this call out to the Department of Defense. Why don't you guys get off your asses? Pete, why don't you support Moms Across America? Maybe you could give them a grant of maybe $5, $10, $15 million to the Department of Defense. Why not have them do further research? Why not make the samples open? Why not have them test your water? But maybe they need some financial support to do the work that you should be doing. This would be a great group to go in there. How about a $25 million grant for Moms Across America from the U.S. military or the Department of Defense, and let them do the research for you, bring the report, and maybe you don't need a 5-year window. Maybe you can get your asses in line, work a little harder, and fix this for our serving military. And I bet the solution after multiple years, if you actually fix the food, you might realize that you have to spend much less money at the VA. Maybe these guys wouldn't be struggling with their health, and maybe the savings would be hundreds of millions of dollars.
They absolutely would. We have thousands of moms that have messaged us, emailed us, written me letters saying that when their children went organic, 85 to 100% of their symptoms went away. Doctors that I talk to, pediatricians, see a 70% improvement in the children with autism that go organic. And this is you can see an incredible amount of and I know of a study that's going to be released pretty soon. 36 children, 12 weeks. Children with autism that ate clean food, not even just organic, but clean food, clean water within 12 weeks, significant improvements in metabolic and all kinds of markers that they got tested on. So it actually showed that these children and young people with autism got better. We already have
and that has to immediately convert, because we're seeing it in the children. It has to convert to our U.S. military. It would be an instant fix. You might save hundreds of millions of dollars at the VA.
Absolutely.
I can't put a number on it.
Medical budgets is $4 trillion right now is what we're spending. What we averaged out, if you add in violence, which means prison population too, right? Then if you look at the book, Food and Behavior, A Natural Connection by Barbara Reed Stitch, she showed that when prisoners, which are monitored, and acts of violence, which are recorded, right? When they were given supplementation, first of all, because our food is so nutrient deficient, the acts of violence dropped 50 to 70% within 1 to 2 weeks. When they were given,
which is unbelievable. And I can tell you that the BOP, I've heard many stories from different individuals that the BOP in general, they act like they follow this nutritional format that's submitted and they have to stick to it, but they don't do that. The menu changes constantly. They have a menu that's supposed to have a certain amount of nutrients, and even the way that they control the commissary, that the guys buy their own stuff. They don't have access to nutrient.
I'm sure it's all junk food, but in this study,
the majority of it's junk food, and they don't. They always justify it. You can't buy fresh fruits and vegetables. You can't buy anything. And people say, well,
and if
they're
you
in
did
prison.
Buy fresh fruits and vegetables, they would have pesticides on them, right? But this study, when they had whole foods, the recidivism rate switched. Instead of 70% coming back in after a year, 70% went out and stayed out. So we added in the prison population rate into this accumulation of the costs of mental health, physical health, and reproductive health crisis in America due to pesticides, and we came up with $8 trillion a year, $8 trillion a year.
Unbelievable.
So we could dramatically reduce our costs all across the country by just getting the pesticides out of the food and the water.
It's a major win on all fronts, because recidivism is a major problem. And let me say this last thing, George. I just want to comment.
I got a request for you, though.
No, but here's my last comment. I want to say that, Zen. So there have been some some research done on inmates that served long periods of time, and the impact on their mental acuity and their physical health after serving 10 or 20 years of a sentence, unbelievable, horrible, horrendous. And everybody else said, well, they're prisoners. They're not supposed to be living it up. No, the time away from their families and life is supposed to be the sentence. They are not supposed to be extra penalized, attacked, undermined, or have their physical health ruined because they served time. The sentence, serving time away from your life, is supposed to be the penalty. It is not supposed to include extra physical ailment or mental disability caused by the time they serve. So anybody that says that, you're full of shit. I hate when people do that.
But that's very convenient for some pharmaceutical companies, because I guarantee you those prisoners that have all those ailments and health issues and mental health issues are on a whole host of drugs.
Yep.
I guarantee you.
Exactly.
And they're vaccinating them, and they've got to have all the kinds of drugs for the side effects of the side effects. So it's the same thing with the foster care system. They require those kids to have vaccinations and to have drugs that cause all kinds of mental health and physical health problems. We know, maybe reproductive problems as well. And so there's a lot of issues that need to be addressed, and shows like yours make this, aware, make the public aware of it. We hope that you guys will share this podcast, and we hope that the administration will hear from us. We do have a letter at the bottom of our article. I'd like to bring it to everybody's attention.
Please, George, can you throw up the article and
sign that? Yes, sign that letter to Trump.
Show people where to go to send this letter to protect their families and their troops and their loved ones.
Please.
In the article?
So in the article at the very bottom, it says sign this letter to Trump. So I just want to point it out to people. It's a 23-page article, so I know it's very, very long.
The links in it. They've been putting the link in the chat. Right down there. It says,
if everybody in our audience, if thousands of you could do that, because we're very fortunate, we have thousands of people tuning in for every one of our episodes. Please go in there, take a minute. If you want to make a difference, it's great that you're here on the show. It's great that George and myself and Zen are educating you. But you want to put your money where your mouth is. It doesn't cost anything to do this. You can make a contribution while you're there on the site, which would be great additionally. But get this letter out. Sign it. It's an opportunity to help protect the troops that protect you.
Yes.
You don't want them being treated like this. And let's face it, what she just brought about the children and our prison population, we want to fix that. You don't want recidivism. If these guys serve a sentence, you want them to come out and you want them to be contributors in society. Having them come out with bad health isn't right. They shouldn't be tortured like that.
And have to go back in and be a taxpayer burden and be restricted from fulfilling on the greatest potential.
Currently, I think an inmate, they claim in the federal system, I think he costs 80 plus some odd thousand a year to house them.
Wow. Yeah. And they're not contributing to society. They could be inventing things. They could be providing services. They could be having relationships with people that change.
Yeah. The education system in the prison system is a fraud. They don't make any intent to help people not recidivate. They don't train them. They could be getting trained in all sorts of things, AI, computer programming, there's very few places that offer welding. Welding's a service we've got a shortage on. There's so many areas, and these guys do want to learn. I've spoken to many of them over the years, and they do want to come out and have, maybe be certified as an electrician. They could get their full certification as a plumber, learn more about construction.
Well, when they get out, there's a lot of programs available to them too.
Yeah, there are some.
There's programs in there. But Lance,
during that time, keeping them busy is always the best answer, I think, George. Right, why they're serving their time. Go ahead.
Goldie6175 says, make him do the dance, the Yul Brynner dance, I guess. I don't know. She wants
to. I am familiar with the Yul Brynner dance.
Bro. Hold on.
But I'm not skilled in the Yul Brynner dance.
Hold on. You're on Spotlight. Go ahead. Let's go.
There's not going to be any Yul Brynner dancing here right now.
You're going to deny one of our big members?
Yeah, I'm afraid I am going to deny that, George. But feel free. I want to tell the audience, if you want to take a cheap shot at George, now's the time. You have an opportunity. Don't take any shots at Zen. She doesn't deserve it. I think she's doing amazing work here. Moms across America.
We all get taken shots at.
Moms across America is doing amazing work. Support them. I'm going to make a recommendation. Go find the link. This is what I'm going to tell the audience to do. And this costs nothing. Go take the link to the article on the Moms Across America website. And I want you to go to your congressional members on X or any other platform you can find them. And I want you to say, what the fuck? Have you seen this article? This is ridiculous.
That would be a good subject line. That would be a good subject line for the email. They would actually open it. The young people would be like,
I want you to DM them. I want you to put it in their feeds. Do it to JD Vance. Do it to Pete Hegseth. Do it to the Department of Defense. Do it to Donald Trump over on True Social. And say, what the fuck? Yeah. We're spending trillions of dollars, and this is how we're feeding our military? What is wrong with you people? You don't have to say the F word. I'm from New York. It's an adjective, an adverb, and a pronoun for me. At the end of the day, maybe dump it into all these people and ask them what the hell they're doing. Dump it into congressional members and say, you guys suck. That you're allowing this to happen. You need to be fired. In fact, you should resign. They all need to read this article, every single one of them. And if you guys dump it into their feeds enough, they're going to wonder why you're doing it. And thousands of you watching this show, tens of thousands of you actually, please go out and do this. It doesn't cost anything to do. This is how we get some optics on this. Because Zen, let me tell you.
I've got to say, the opposition they're going to get is that the senators and representatives and the regulators are going to say, well, we've got to feed the world. We've got to support these farmers.
No, screw that. I want to feed the U.S.
80% of what they're growing is being exported. So anybody who's a proponent for the current farming system is a proponent just for mostly foreign food.
Yeah.
So how about being a proponent for Americans growing American food that is non-toxic and nutrient dense? We have to prioritize, what the EPA's mission and their budget. If you had to sum it up into 2 words, it would be business first. If you had to sum up USDA, it would be farmers first. And keep in mind, 80% of that are chemical farmers, right? That's chemical farmers first. And if you were to sum up our senators and representatives' mission, it would be campaign contributions first.
Yeah, and that's what I would say.
Hang on one second, but what we want to say is Moms Across America says it should be children first, health first, safety first, and our military first, right? Put their health and safety first and prioritize any type of funding to go towards food, healthy, non-toxic, nutrient-dense food first. And we can do it. We can do it. It's just a stroke of a pen, Donald. We would really appreciate it. Less than 2%.
And that's well said. And I would add to that you can always say to them, well, maybe you should stop taking campaign contributions from big ag, from the chemical companies. Maybe your response wouldn't be the same if you weren't taking all that money, grifting the American public. All right, if you guys know what to do, George is going to do short form like he always does. Take the long form, take the short form, share it with your family members, your loved ones, your congressional members, state and federal, the executive branch of our government. Hammer their asses, because that's what you guys do. You can be the hammer. You can make a difference. Zen Honeycutt, thank you so very much for joining us. We appreciate it. And go support Moms Across America. Maybe go make a donation today.
Namaste.
That's how we fix this. More money allows more optics. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up, comment, share, subscribe. Take the short form, like I said, share it far and wide. Go follow us on social media if you want to get the real dig and stay on track with our shows. Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard is where you can find us. And the Crypto Power Hour, officially the #1 crypto show on Rumble, top 3 in the nation, 7 a.m. on Wednesdays, 7 a.m. on Fridays. George, take us out.
You don't leave me a lot to take us out with, Lance, but have a blessed weekend. Stay healthy, stay safe, and eat right. God bless.
I might have to let it drop. Said, gotta do hella big, had to put it back again, like said, had to put it hella big, had to put it.
Are you ready to stand up for your community and support your local sheriff? Join the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association and become a vital member of the Sheriff's Citizens Posse. At CSPOA.org, we empower citizens like you through weekly webinars, arming you with the knowledge to back your constitutional county sheriff. Together, we can uphold our Constitution and ensure liberty and justice for all. Your community needs you now more than ever. Visit CSPOA.org and join the Sheriff's Citizens Posse today. Make a difference. Stand for freedom. That's CSPOA.org. Your country, your fight, your future.
What if you could predict your financial future? And what if you could trade on it? Introducing Block Trust IRA. The future in your hands. An astonishing 88,000 millionaires were created last year from the Bitcoin boom, and you could be next. Block Trust IRA is the only crypto management firm powered by AI-driven strategies, ranked #1 in the world by Bitcoin Magazine. The Block Trust IRA platform is built for everyone, from first-time buyers to seasoned investors. Predictive AI technology that was once only reserved for insiders and elites is now available to you. It's time to leave the old buy and hold strategies behind. Your assets are protected with military-grade security, offline cold storage, and $200 million in insurance. Visit BlockTrustIRA.com to book your free consultation and ask how to claim up to $2,500 in deposit bonuses today. Bitcoin changed the game. AI changes the strategy.
Hi folks, I'm here today to introduce you to the Prepper Bar from PrepperBar.com, the most unique precious metals product we have seen in a long time. These 62-gram bars are perforated and easily broken down into your choice of 3 different sizes to fit a multitude of needs. Whether it be from asset protection from inflation, economic turmoil, or its unique utility for barter and trade, the Prepper Bar makes a perfect gift for all the precious metal lovers out there. Exclusively made here in the USA and selling out fast. Available in both gold and silver, these slim Prepper Bars fit neatly in your wallet, and their utility enables use in any situation.
Forged through rigorous training and honed by the finest instructors on Earth, these K9 units serve beside our nation's warriors as they fight to preserve what we cherish. When these warriors complete their duty, the Warrior Dog Foundation provides them with a home deserving of the service they've given us all. At our state-of-the-art kennels, they receive rehabilitation and care suitable for heroes, because that's what they are. Be a part of giving them a future today. Visit warriordogfoundation.org